Wanted to dedicate at least a segment, an hour, though, Michael, to some of the off-season movement, though, going on in NFL, especially head coaching and GM circles. We've got a couple of fun graphics that our producer Brian Ortega put together as we first go into all the vacancies here and try to figure out what is going to be the best fit for teams and head coaches. What do you see at least being the top job right now? Like, if you're one of these head coaches who's going to be interviewing, where do you feel like the best spot to land is, at least at this moment?
Well, I think everybody thinks Denver isn't a great spot because of Russell and because of the disaster that was before him. But sometimes when you take over for a disaster, whatever you do after that, it looks pretty good, right? And so, and then I think this owner, Greg Penner, is really good. I think he gets it. I think he understands. The hardest part about becoming a head coach in the NFL is does the owner understand what the job is and what it isn't? Does he want somebody to be a CEO? And it sounds like he does. He wants somebody with a clear vision. He wants somebody to lead his organization. He wants somebody to lead his team. He wants toughness. He wants discipline. He wants competitiveness. And all those things are going to get wrapped into, patience, because he knows the situation that you're inheriting isn't very good. So he's going to pay well. And he's going to give you the ability to build your organization, what sounds like a college program, right? And I think that's why he's leaning towards a guy like Jim Harbaugh, who could come in there and develop that college program and run the thing completely. So, which is what Harbaugh wants to do. Harbaugh's not going to leave Michigan to come in and work for somebody else. He's going to leave Michigan to be his guy. So there's a lot of benefits there in Denver. Great fan base. Yeah, I know you got to beat Justin Herbert twice a year. You got to beat Pat Mahomes twice a year. I get all that. That's hard to do. But I mean, what job is easy? What job is easy? They all come around. There's no. It's like they don't give you free houses in Beverly Hills. You got to earn it. And so I think this is really one, and I think they'll spend. I think you've got an opportunity to build off the defense, which it can be even better. And there's nowhere to go but up after what happened last year. And they've got some players on the team that you can work with, and they're going to have some cap room that I think you could really figure out a way to maneuver once you handle the Russell situation.
Right. And that would appear to be the topic number one if you're a coach coming in. For those of you watching on the VSiN app or YouTube TV, our producer Brian Ortega has some great. We have some. These are like the job posting type requirements here. For those of you listening, we'll on the radio side, we'll run off some of these minimum requirements we've at least come up with for if you're going to be a head coach for one of these teams. You've got to solve, and figuring out the Russell Wilson problem is probably first and foremost among that. In addition, on the Denver side, you have you lose your top first round pick, so you won't have a top 5 pick this year, and no second rounder either. It's a late first round pick, so creativity in the draft is going to be, I would think, Michael, a very, very big part of any coach coming in addition to the Wilson issue. And you've also got a team that lacked much of an identity in that 2022 season.
I think that, I think figuring out what to do with Russell Wilson is going to take a second or third level. I think it's going to be, here's who we're going to become, right? And no longer are we Russ's team. We ain't letting Russ cook. Like I said during the year, he went from cooking at the French Laundry to cooking at a diner to now he's working in a cafeteria. He's making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like, he's going through the whole cooking exposition here. I mean, Anthony Bourdain, God rest his soul, was going up faster than that. So, we got to handle that. So, he ain't the cook anymore. So here's what's going to be the program. Either he gets with it or he's going out. And we're going to be a tough physical team. We've got to be able to play at a different level. We've got to have discipline and toughness, which is something we didn't have on this football team. I think that's what you're going to see coming out of there. I don't think it's going to be I don't think he's going to want to hire a specific, I got to have this play caller, or I saw Kellen Moore got requested to be interviewed by Carolina. Good luck there. Let's go see how that works out. And you move forward. I think it's going to take more of, I want this guy to build me a program. And that once I build that program, then it then takes care of everything else. And I think Harbaugh at plus 330, I think it's pretty good. Here's why I don't think Sean Payton's a play here, because I think it's going to require compensation, and Denver's going to not want to give up compensation. And if I could get Harbaugh for cash without having to pay a draft pick, and it costs me money for Payton and draft capital, do I want to do that? I think that's why I would flip. I think that's why at plus 330, it's a good number. I mean, they could have hired Dan Quinn last year. They didn't.
That's what makes the betting angle, and those odds are all available at VSiN.com. Quinn, the favorite at plus 225. Harbaugh at 330. Sean Payton, 3.5 to 1. lot of public sentiment will be towards Peyton, and I don't think a lot of people realize just the logistical hurdles that a lot of teams will have to clear since Peyton still has his rights with the New Orleans Saints right now. So it really just depends on the situation. And Harbaugh right now, that the second favorite, did have a virtual meeting on Monday. That was a report from NFL Network, 2-hour virtual meeting that Harbaugh had with the Denver Broncos ownership and the front office there. At least as far as some benefits going in, I don't know if it was what it took to get Jerry Jeudy unlocked as a wide receiver, but in a weird way, Michael, maybe all the adversity having to deal with a bad Russell Wilson at quarterback, it seemed like it finally got him out of his shell, because such an underwhelming first year and a half, and he exploded at least 5 catches in each of the last 5 games for Denver. I found myself really, really impressed with the signs he showed down the stretch.
I think this is one of those things where there's talent on this team, right? I think they underachieved tremendously. I think they went into the season under the Matt LaFleur program where we don't want to get anybody hurt. We're just going to go through this, right? And we got Russell, and Russell will make everything up. And they had no toughness as a team. And they had no mental toughness as a team. And then they started losing guys because, they went into that program of we're going to avoid injury, so we're not going to play anybody. But then when we play people, we get people hurt. So I think that was an issue there, too. And I think that so there's a lot of players here that you can really get them to play to another level. And I think defensively, I think they underachieved. I mean, to give up 51 points to Baker Mayfield and the Los Angeles Rams on Christmas Day, to me, that was like, whoa, that's really bad. Mm-hmm. That's when you knew the team quit on Nathaniel Hackett. They just that was it. They checked out.
No question, yeah.
So there's a lot of talent here. I mean, they got to get Randy Gregory on the field all the time. They traded Bradley Chubb, which doesn't look like a bad trade right now, considering how much Miami paid Chubb. And you never feel – I know Chubb's been injured, but you don't feel Chubb's presence in a game. You don't feel him like, oh, my gosh, we got to get this. So I think this is a really good job. I really do. I think the owner understands what you're walking into, which is half the battle in the NFL.
No question. It kind of on the other side of this, you think about Denver as a job that's open. What about Arizona that is now Kingsbury out, Keim, the GM, out? You have Kyler Murray, who's been given a massive, massive contract. What do you see on this Arizona frontier for coaches?
Well, then we saw a report. We saw a report that Michael Bidwell said he's going to be consulted on the hire. Whoa. And they're going to trade Hopkins. I mean, look, this Hopkins thing, I know Houston took a lot of heat for it, but there's a lot of things behind this Hopkins, why they want to trade Hopkins. That was the reason why they wanted to trade Hopkins in Houston. And it's not out it's more of an underground, people in the league know, but the fans have a different perspective of this. And I think this is pretty clear what they got into when they got Hopkins. I don't think they knew what they were getting into. Yeah, he's a great player. There's no denying that. Tremendous player. But there's some things that come along with it that have to be handled that I don't think, it's as rosy as everybody wants to make it out to be. All the experts that said, oh, here's what you do. No, I think you're not, you don't have to deal with it every day.
Interesting that is now coming out here. Hopkins goes 2 years left on his deal. Sources say he wants a new deal, likely to be traded. That is the report coming out of Arizona. So
he just got a new deal. I mean, how could he want it? He just got a new deal. I mean, the market he missed 6 games.
Yeah, and it did not go well. Even when he came back, there were a lot of issues too for Arizona. Part of which were his fault, part of which were obviously not.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.